Shalom, shalom. Lord willing, this is edifying through the Spirit. I want to give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakakwadash, Brakata Yahweh, Brakata Yahushai. Double honors to the elder apostles and the elders of Great Millstone who rule well and teach well through the Spirit. And a mighty shalom to the hopeful elect scattered four corners of the earth in the same Spirit. Lord willing, that y'all all continue to endure and be sincere. Shalom to the Akwath that are believers of His faith and His truth. Lord willing, that y'all all continue to pursue your lot, which is being a loving and silent, virtuous wife. And Lord willing, the Most have mercy on the other brothers and sisters that's not in the faith. Right? We're going to deal with Zechariah, the first chapter, verse 18, I believe to 21. It was a video that I seen on TikTok, and I believe a brother, he broke down certain points incorrectly, or I guess that's his understanding. But I did a lesson on this a long time ago, I believe, from 18 to 21. So we're just going to tap into it. Lord willing, it's on point, and Lord willing, it's not too long. So just bear with me. So we're going to read through and then dissect it. So this is Zechariah chapter 1, verse 8 to 21. It says, "Then lifted I up my eyes, and saw, and behold, four horns. And I said unto the angel that talked with me, What be these? And he answered me, These are the horns which have scattered Judah, Israel, and Jerusalem. And Yahweh showed me four carpenters. Then said I, What come these to do? And he spake, saying, These are the horns which have scattered Judah, so that no man did lift up his head. But these are to come fray them to cast out the horns of the Gentiles, which lifted up their horn over the land of Judah to scatter." Now, these four horns represents the four kingdoms, right? In Daniel, the 2nd chapter, and Daniel, the 8th chapter. Lord willing, I can go to different points to bring in understanding, right? So these four horns represents power and rulership. So let's slide over and let's actually read Daniel, the 7th chapter, and let's start at verse 4, right? And the first was like a lion, and had eagle wings. I beheld till the wings thereof were plucked, and it was lifted up from the earth, and made stand upon the feet as a man, and the man's heart was given unto it, right? This right here would be the Babylon Empire, right? Verse 5, "And behold, another beast, a second like to a bear, and it raised up itself on one side, and it had 3 ribs in the mouth of it, between the teeth of it. They said thus unto it, Arise, devour much flesh." This is the Medo-Persian Empire. Verse 6, "After this I beheld, and lo, another like a leopard, which had upon the back of it 4 wings of a fowl. The beast had also 4 heads, and dominion was given to it." This is the Greek Empire. Now, it's more understanding in this verse where it talks about the 4 wings of a fowl. The beast had also 4 heads. That's going into the 4 generals under Alexander the Great, especially when he actually went to the spirit world and died. First Maccabees, the 1st chapter. Then the 4 generals rose up in power. Right now, verse 7. It says, "After this I saw in the night visions, and behold, a 4th beast, dreadful and terrible, and strong and exceedingly, and it had 4 great iron teeth. It devoured and brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with the feet of it. And it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it, and had 10 horns." Right? This is the ancient Roman Empire, right? And their war tactic, using iron at the time, they were vicious when it came to war. Right? This is the Roman captivity, the ancient Rome, right? Which, even when I read verse 8, is going to show that it continued today through the revival of Rome, which Edomites, Idumeans ruled Rome, right? And we see the 10 horns, which is synonymous with NATO and EU, right? So let's read verse 8. It said, "I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn, before whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked up by the roots. And behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of man, and a mouth speaking great things." Now, The three horns is synonymous into the history dealing with the British, the French, and the Spanish, right? America went through these three wars, Revolutionary Wars, Civil Wars, so on and so on type of wars to make its independence, which they say 1776 is like July 1776 is where America got its independence. America stems out of England, Britain. America is still part of Britain, right? But America is the face of the earth because that is the new revival of Rome, right? And so to add on with that, right, these are the same four kingdoms spoken in Daniel, the 2nd chapter, which it gives us the image of each one of them. So what I'll do is I'll actually slide to Daniel, the 2nd chapter, right? So this is Daniel, the 2nd chapter, just so you can, for your own, you can read actually the whole 2nd chapter. But this is Daniel chapter 2 and verse 38. I said at 37, it says, O thou king, art the king of kings, for the God of heaven have given thee a kingdom, power, and strength, and glory. You know, Daniel 2 and 21, the Lord set up kings and remove kings. Daniel 4 and 7, the Lord ruleth in the kingdom of men. He give it to whomsoever he wants, and the basis and give it to the basis of men, the lowest of men, which is really Esau. He's the based men on the earth. But the Lord give the kingdom to whoever he wants. Verse 38, this is the point for the head of gold. It says, and wheresoever the children of men dwell, the beasts of the field and the fowls of the heaven have he given into my hand, and have made me the ruler over them all. Thou art the head of gold, right? This is synonymous with Nebuchadnezzar, the Babylonian empire, right? Which Nebuchadnezzar ruled the Babylonian empire, right? He's technically a Syrian, right? But he ruled the Babylonian empire. Now let's go to verse 39. It says, after thee shall arise another kingdom inferior to thee, and another third kingdom of brass, which shall bear rule over all the earth. And each empire grew. So Babylon, then who is this breast and arm of silver? The Medo Persia, right? So then they grew bigger than Babylon, right? Which is started with Cyrus, and then Darius took down Babylon, right? Let's go to Salaki. It said two of them, Salaki. So we got the gold head, which is Babylon, verse 39, that after thee shall arise another kingdom inferior to thee, and another third kingdom of brass, which shall rule over all the earth. Now the one that's inferior is the Persian Medes, but then the third one, which is really the belly and the thigh of brass, that would be the Greek Empire, right? Started off with Alexander the Great, and then the Greeks defeated the Persians, right? Let me just show you that was Alexander the Great, right? Because when you go into Zechariah 1, it's really technically going into history, right? And this is prophecy, right? For you to understand where you at right now. This is why when you just hop into Salaki, when you just hop into the gospel and don't understand history, prophecies that did come to pass, prophecies that haven't got fulfilled, or prophecies that have been fulfilled, but there's no understanding to even know, right? This is the reason why we always hop back into prophecy. This is 1 Maccabees chapter 1, starting with verse 1. It says, and it happened after that Alexander, son of Philip, the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Chittim, had smitten Darius, king of the Persians and Medes, that he reigned in his stead the first over Greece, right? And then we keep on going, and you'll hear, he passed. It says, and made many wars, and won many strongholds, and slew the kings of the earth, right? The Greek captivity from Babylon and Persia, Medes, right? The Greek captivity, or the Greek empire, was the biggest. That was the biggest empire, right? Until Rome got into play. It says it went through to the ends of the earth, and took spoils of many nations, insomuch that the earth was quiet before him. Whereupon he was exalted, and his heart was lifted up. And he gathered a mighty strong host, and ruled over countries, and nations, and kings, who became tributaries unto him. After these things he fell sick, and perceived that he should die. Wherefore he called his servants, and such as were honorable, he had been brought up with him from his youth, and parted his kingdom among them while he was yet alive. So Alexander reigned for 12 years, and then died, and his servants bare ruled every one in his place. And after his death they all put crowns upon themselves. So did their sons after them many years, and evils were multiplied in the earth. Right? So after Alexander the Great went to the spirit world, his 4 generals separated the kingdom that Alexander the Great built. And then when they passed, they just kept giving it to descendant until, well, later on when we go into Daniel the 8th chapter, you'll see a wicked root grew. So this is Daniel chapter 2, and we're just going to read verse 40. It says, "And the 4th kingdom shall be strong as iron, for as much as iron breaketh in pieces and subdueth all things, and as iron that breaketh all these, shall it break in pieces and bruise." This is speaking of the Roman Empire, which is the legs of iron, right? Rome crushed and ruled Israel with iron, right? The feet, part iron and part clay, right? The iron is strong, the clay is weak, right? A modern revival of Rome through American NATO EU, part strong and part weak, which we read in Daniel the 7th chapter, verse 8. That's that little horn, right? But the feet, part iron and part clay, right? This goes into the ancient Rome, right? But eventually it stems to where we're technically at right now, right? Because the legs of Rome was the ancient Rome, but the feet, part iron and clay, that goes to where I'll actually read it, verse 41. "And whereas thou sawest the feet and toes, part iron, part potter's clay, and part of iron, the kingdom shall be divided, but there shall be in it of the strength of the iron, for as much as thou sawest the iron mixed with marred clay, and as the toes of feet were part of iron and part of clay, and so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly broken." Right? This is going into the kingdom now, right? Roman revived, right? Roman, the NATO and EU, the 7 heads and the 10 horns, right? Lord willing, that all made sense to you, to those that are listening. So again, going to the point, the first is the Babylon Empire, the Medo-Persian Empire, and then the Greek Empire, and then the Roman Empire. So again, Zechariah 1 and verse 18, "Then lifted I up my eyes and saw, and behold, 4 horns, Babylonian, Medo-Persian, Greek, and Rome. And I said unto the angel that talked with me, What be these? And he answered me, These are the horns which I have which have scattered Judah, Israel, and Jerusalem. Now, dealing with the northern kingdom got removed by the Heavenly Father when the Assyrians came and took over the northern land, which you go to 2 Kings, the 17th chapter. Go read it. Right? The northern kingdom was in the hands of the Assyrian. And then they made a council with each other after a time of being with the Assyrians. And they said, man, we got to get away from these people. They made a council and they fled away from the Assyrians. So even when we deal with the Babylonian, the Persian, Medes, the Greeks, and the Romans, that was all the southern kingdom. Even though some of the northern kingdom cleave to the southern kingdom, because still some of the northern kingdom was still showing that they believed in Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai. But the majority of the northern kingdom came over to the western hemisphere, right? So now we're going to tap into verse 19. You know, we already dealt with 18, but to give a point to scattered Judah, Israel, and Jerusalem, right? These kingdoms all played a role in scattering and oppressing the 12 tribes of Israel. So now what we're going to do is show Judah in captivity in the hands of the Babylonians. So I'm not going to read the whole chapter, but if you go to 2 Kings, the 25th chapter, think I'll just start here. This is 2 Kings chapter 25, verse 1. And it came to pass in the 9th year of his reign, in the 10th month, in the 10th day of the month, that Nebuchadnezzar king of Babylon came, he and all his hosts, against Jerusalem, and pitched against it, and they built forts against it round about. And the city was besieged unto the 11th year of King Zechariah. In the 9th day of the 4th month, the famine prevailed in the city, and there was no bread for the people of the land. And the city was broken up, and all men of war fled by night by the way of the gate between two walls, which is by the king's garden. Now the Chaldees were against the city round about, and the king went the way towards the plain. And the army of the Chaldees pursued after the king and overtook him in the plains of Jericho, and all his army were scattered from him. So they took the king and brought him up to the king of Babylon to Riblah, and they gave a judgment upon him. And they slew the sons of Zedekiah before his eyes, and put out the eyes of Zedekiah, and bound him with fetters of brass, and carried him to Babylon. Now you could finish reading the whole chapter. When you get into like verse 13 and 17, it goes into the vessels carried to Babylon, right? This is a vital time in the history, right, leading to the first scattering of Jake, going really the southern kingdom going into the Babylonian Empire, right? So let me get another point, and then we'll probably end this video, and Lord willing do a part 2. This is the book of Ezra. We're going to go to the 4th chapter. Just to make it even straight to the point, I'm going to read 2nd Ezra chapter 4, verse 1, I believe, to 5. And I'm going to read it in the NLT. It says, the enemies of Judah and Benjamin heard that the exiles were rebuilding a temple. This is just going to show you that the children of Israel were under tribute to the Persian Medes, right? Really, when you give tribute, that just shows that you're conquered, right? But the enemies of Judah and Benjamin heard that the exiles were rebuilding a temple to Yahweh, the power of Israel. So they approached Zerubbabel and the other leaders and said, let us build with you, for we worship your power just as you do. We have sacrificed to him ever since King of Asar-Hadad of Assyria brought us here. But Zerubbabel, Jeshua, and other leaders of Israel replied, you may have no part in this work. We alone will build a temple of Yahweh, the power of Israel, just as King Cyrus of Persia commanded us. Then the local residents tried to discourage and frighten the people of Judah to keep them from their work. They bribed against the work against them and to frustrate their plans. This went on during the entire reign of King Cyrus of Persia, and lasted until King Darius of Persia took the throne, right? Now, you could keep reading throughout this chapter, but that few points just showed you when the Persian Medes was ruling. You have to know Cyrus, which we go into Isaiah, he was anointed by the Heavenly Father to allow Israel to go back to their land, or really a selected or elect few to go rebuild the temple in the name of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, right? So, catch up on your history. But with that, Lord willing, see you in part 2. I want to give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakakwadash, Brakati Yahweh, Brakati Yahushai. Double honors to the elder apostle, the elder apostles, a great millstone, and the elders. And a mighty shalom to the hopeful elect in the same spirit. Lord willing, that you all continue in sound doctrine in the same spirit. Shalom, shalom, abba, salaki.